All right, welcome guys. We got 10 games to go over today. A nice slate for a Wednesday. Hoping for a better slate for myself at least than last night. Last night went awful. Almost finished dead last in some of those tournaments, but did tilt. Max entered the fourth quarter showdown slate because that was a blowout, and I did make some money back. Could have been a big night, but Boban got ejected late in that game, and he was like low owned in the fourth quarter showdown slate. I was just like, really, like an ejection in like a 40-point game. But yeah, so that's kind of the look back, and it was not a good night for myself. But all right, so let's take a look at what we know so far today. There's a good amount of news to go over since again there's 10 games. So let's start at the beginning, and let's see, where are we at here? Mike Conley got ruled out. He got ruled out like right after I made my video last night. Tatum is in, Robert Williams is in, so the Celtics don't look as good, but we do have Marcus Smart news, which we'll have to go over. We have Bogdan questionable for the Hawks. A lot of guards are currently questionable there. Harrison Barnes is out, so I'm not sure who. I don't know who the Kings are going to start for Harrison Barnes. We'll talk about that. I think there's a few viable options. Let's see, where else are we at here as far as news? All right, I got to scroll back a little bit. Okay, so yeah, big news that just came out about a half hour ago is Marcus Smart is out. He's suspended. So that is pretty significant. Yes, they're getting Jason Tatum back, but with no Smart and no Kemba now, I think Peyton Pritchard becomes one of the better value plays of the slate. Again, Kevin Huerter's out. We're still waiting on Bogdan and Goodwin. If they are both out too, again, the Hawks just don't have anyone. So like Lou Williams, I would think would be someone that probably has to play over 30 minutes. Chris Dunn will play increased minutes. We don't know how many more minutes he will play, but he's a close to min price. You want to take a shot there. Let's see. James Ennis will have a minutes limit. Doesn't do a ton for me. Some of the stuff's for Thursday with the Pistons vets resting, and I think that's where we're at right now for news. Yeah, that's where we're at. So, again, we have 10 games. I'm not going to go every one for the Vegas odds. But let me refresh this and point out a couple games I think look appealing as far as pace goes. So the Lakers-Wizards game's almost at 230. That Pelicans-Nuggets game's at 230.5. I think Jokic looks like one of the better spin-ups. The Trailblazers-Grizzlies game's 240 over-under. I like that game for contrarian stack, and it's just because looking at the players and their prices in the Blazers-Grizzlies game, there's no optimal plays there, right? I don't think Lillard or CJ are optimal plays. I don't really think John Morant's an optimal play. I think you can make the argument for Nurkic below 7K, but I just think everyone will go a little bit lower owned in that game. And I think, again, it has a lot of upside. And then, obviously, the Jazz-Kings late game, there's a little bit of blowout risk. Both no Conley, no Mitchell. Maybe the Kings can keep it close, even though, again, they're missing a lot on their side. All right, so Goodwin's in. Wow. That, honestly, did we just get the news? That shocks me. That really shocks me because available to play. He literally got wheelchaired off last game. Like, he got put in a wheelchair. And he's available to play. We'll get to that. But I am shocked. I am actually shocked that Brandon Goodwin is playing. Wow. So we'll see what they do with the starting lineup. But, yeah, Bogdan Bogdanovic, super high usage guy, out of the offense. Curious to see, again, who they end up starting. First, we got to talk about the game that everyone is super excited to watch, the Orlando Magic and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Again, like I mentioned in my video last night, you could not pay me money to watch this full game. But I will talk about it for DFS purposes. So on the Orlando Magic side, there's not a ton that really stands out here. I think Cole Anthony is playable at 6.3K. Should play low to mid-30s minutes. Centers, no thank you. Chimo Kiki, viable. Might lose a couple minutes, though. James Ennis back. Bacon and Gary Harris are not completely out of play. The minutes will probably be around 30 for each of them, but they're both kind of scoring dependent, and I don't know if they're necessary on this slate. On the Cleveland Cavaliers side, so Darius Garland, and kind of just a secondary play at 7.7K. No Sexton, does get a slight boost. With Allen versus Love, there's no priority plays here. If I had to pick one, it would be Allen just because he has the potential to play more minutes. I think Cedi Osman's still playable. He's been the absolute, chalk value last couple slates. But he's played 37 and 38 minutes. They're once again thin. I still think Chetty is viable here at 5K. Like, I'm fine if you land on him. There's a few guys on the bench that I will mention just because they're going to have a tight rotation. No one really feel good. Well, first starting is Okoro. I hate playing this guy, but he probably plays over 30 minutes. He's just super, super low usage. Like, Okoro literally, I think one game this year, played 41 minutes and had 4 fancy points. Like, that's how bad of a point per minute guy he is. Dean Wade played 32 minutes the last game. He's 3.5K. I think he's definitely playable. If you want to get very contrarian, you can take a dart on Damian Dotson, who played 24 minutes. But, yeah, that's where I'm at for Cleveland. Nothing that I love. No standout plays for me. All right, so let's see. Do we have news for the Hawks and their starters? I think we might have some news. Let's take a look at this. Okay, not yet. Westbrook, Neto, Beal, Rui, and Len starting. All right, so we're still waiting on the Hawks starting lineup. Before we get into the other games, guys, if you could leave a like button on the live stream, it does help me out a ton. We're already at 200 viewers and 30 likes. Let's try to reach 100 likes again before the end of the show. We hit over 400 viewers last live stream, and we got, I think, 125 likes. So greatly appreciate all support. And yeah, let's keep it going. So Atlanta and Philadelphia. All right, so Bogdan out, Herter out, Goodwin in. I'm just thinking like what they're going to do with this lineup. So like, I don't know who I mean, Capella and Collins are obviously going to start. Does like Gallinari or Solomon Hill move in the starting lineup? And then like, is it like Goodwin and Lou Williams at the guards? I don't know. They really don't have a ton of options here. So I guess we'll start with Lou Williams at 4-5. I think, he's been hovering in the mid-20s minutes range. He might have to play more. Even though it's a bad matchup, I think Lou Williams is firmly in play. And if he does start, would like him more. Just because, again, the Hawks, they just don't have a lot of guards right now. Goodwin at 4-3. I'm honestly, again, shocked he is going to play. Assuming he starts at the point guard position, I actually think he's a pretty good value play. So Goodwin, Lou Williams, I have interest in. As far as Chris Dunn goes off the bench, minutes will be increased. I'm not sure by how much. So might be one where it's like you can take a shot there, but like he could only play like 20 minutes. And with Collins, Capella, I'm probably not going to get to either of them against this Philadelphia front court. It's really like the value guards I'm looking to. So that's where I'm at right now. And keep an eye on that starting lineup. On the Philadelphia side, there's really only one guy for me. It's Joel Embiid. It's a contrarian spend up. As you guys know, or maybe know, I think Nikola Jokic is probably going to be the most popular spend up on the slate. He's at a similar price to Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid's going to come in, again, way less ownership. I think, maybe looks slightly suboptimal compared to Jokic. I agree. I think Jokic probably looks like the best spend up. But ownership is also going to go way to Jokic as opposed to Embiid. So I kind of like Embiid as a pivot off the chalk Jokic if you want to do it in GPPs. Even with Simmons and Tobias Harris in this offense, Embiid still has, 60-plus fantasy point upside. So like him as a GPP pivot. That is about it. All right, let's see. Do we have any more news here? Caruso out. Doesn't do much really for me. All right, so Charlotte and Boston. A couple guys I mentioned here for the Charlotte side. Rozier is a fine tournament play. He's been a little bit up and down, but the upside is there. He went for 50 last game against Boston. Again, 21, 29, 37 mixed in. So again, he's been a little bit inconsistent, but like the upside is still there with no LaMelo, no Gordon Hayward. Again, revenge game narrative. I think Rozier is an interesting tournament play. Miles Bridges has been playing really well. PJ Washington at 6'8". I mean, does have upside. I guess he's fine for tournaments. Devontae Graham, I think, is honestly might be the safest. Played 34 minutes, which was good to see. They were kind of taking it easy on his minutes for a while, but we've gotten 36, 32, and 34 the last 3 games. He's a guy that, can get some assists. 10, 9, 6 assists. I think he's a fair play in the mid-range. And then Cody Martin, assuming he starts. The Charlotte Hornet team has been running an 8-man rotation. Cody Martin has been starting. He's not a great point per minute guy, but he's played 31 and 30 minutes the last couple of games. He's gone for 40 and 28 fantasy points. I think he's a fair value, assuming he starts again. And then I will mention Brad Wanamaker. It's gross, but 24, 27 minutes off the bench, 19 and 25 minutes or 25 fantasy points in those games. It's a revenge game narrative if you're into that. So Wanamaker, I think, is at least intriguing for a contrarian value play. On the Celtics side, so Tatum and Brown at the top at 9.6 and 8.5K. I think are both solid plays. Neither are priority plays, though, with both in the lineup. The guy I'm looking to, again, Marcus Smart is out, is Peyton Pritchard at 4K. I think he starts. I think he plays over 30 minutes. He had a really good game last game. We're probably not going to get 40, but, like, assuming he starts, I think he's, again, one of the better value plays in a good matchup. So do like Peyton Pritchard to get him out. Could you make the argument for Evan Fournier too? Yeah, because he played 35 minutes kind of out of nowhere. Like, they were taking it easy on his method, and then he just plays 35. So Fournier, playable. I mean, again, I never play the guy, but he's at least viable on the slate. Really where I'm looking to, though, is Peyton Pritchard. I like him a lot here for value. All right, so let's move on to Lakers and Wizards. At the top for the Lakers, Anthony Davis at 9.2K is intriguing here. Great matchup. You know, he's been eased back into it minutes-wise, but there's no more limit for him, and it's a fantastic matchup. I think he looks like a pretty good GPP play. I don't think he's going to be super popular. The one thing I'm worried about with Anthony Davis is Drummond playing alongside next to him really, you know, hurts his rebound upside. Anthony Davis, that is. Like, whenever Drummond is on the court, he's just going to eat up all the rebounds. So, like, that does hurt Davis a little bit. But for the fact that, you know, we might get 35 minutes out of AD with no LeBron against the Washington Wizards at 9-2, I still like the upside. So Davis, I'm good with. I think he's a pretty good contrarian GPP play. Drummond, you guys know the drill by now. Just, again, has the upside, but you're just never going to feel good about playing Andre Drummond. And then Dennis Schroeder, I think, is a pretty safe play in the mid-range. The minutes have been massive for him, 38, 37, 38. He's gone for double-digit assists the last 3 games. It's a good matchup. I'm perfectly fine with Dennis Schroeder at that price point. On the Washington Wizards side, so Russell Westbrook at 11.1K, I think is one of the better spin-ups. Now, again, with him, you got Jokic. I think those two would probably be the most popular at the top. You know, maybe Jokic will get a little more ownership because the matchup is probably a little bit better, especially if Steven Adams is out. But Westbrook, again, he's just going to play the massive minutes. He's going to play close to 40. He's got triple-double upside. He had the 1-4 game. Other than that, like, this guy's gone for 60-plus almost every game. So I still like Westbrook at the top. Beal at 10K, nothing more than a contrarian pivot. And with the center roulette, I mean, you can take a shot in Gafford and hope he plays 25 minutes. But you guys know my feelings by now on Scotty Brooks with that rotation. That is not fun. All right. Any more news? Zach LaVine, another week to miss. Okay. All right. So Chicago and New York. There's not much here for the Bulls. Vooch, contrarian spend up. Sure. Kobe White, contrarian play in the mid range. Sure. Daniel Tice went for 50 last game. I kind of feels like chasing, and he's only center eligible. Center's loaded. I'm kind of just avoiding the Bulls. If I had to pick one player for the Bulls, I think it would be Kobe White. On the Knicks side, there's a couple guys who are at least intriguing here for me. Julius Randle's going to try and spend up, should play close to 40 minutes. This is a much better matchup here. I'm good going to a low-owned Randle. And then a couple guys cheap to mid-range. Derrick Rose at 5'4", 30, 33, and 33 minutes the last 3 games. If he's going to continue to play over 30 minutes, I think Derrick Rose is a little bit underpriced here. Again, good matchup, revenge game too. Yeah, I'm perfectly fine with Derrick Rose. And then even Nerlens Noel at 4'4". Should get, close to 30 minutes. 28, 27, 34, 29, 28. So again, somewhere around 30. Besides that last game where he dudded against Phoenix, 20, 34, 25, 26 fantasy points. I think he's a pretty safe value play. If you land on him, that's good. I think he's playable in both formats. All right, San Antonio and Miami. So in the Spurs, tough matchup here. There's not much to like. DeRozan, Murray both killed it last game because of the match against the Wizards plus the overtime. This is way different. They go from one of the best matchups to one of the worst matchups against the Miami Heat. I'm going to stay away from both. Derek White is out, so like Lonnie Walker and Patty Mills, I guess, are playable value plays. This is Greg Popovich, though, so like I never have a great feeling targeting Spurs because of Pop. So yeah, they're you can always consider them, but they're not guys I really like. On the Miami side, it really depends on Nunn and Hero. If they are both out, I think one of the best plays in the slate would be Goran Dragic. And the reason I say that is I was a little bit worried about his minutes because like they really were taking it easy. Then he just plays 35 minutes. So assuming there's no Nunn and there's no Hero, I think we get similar minutes from Dragic, who will play mostly at the point guard. Obviously, he went for 8 points, 6 boards, 7 assists. A guy that can stuff the stat sheet. Yeah, I think Dragic, again, if both those guys are out, I like him a good amount there in the mid-range. And then Jimmy and Bam at the top, I think are both decent contrarian spend-ups. Neither priority plays for me. Duncan Robinson is also questionable. I still don't know if it does much. Like, do I really want to consider guys like KZ Okpala or like Gabe Vincent? I don't really want to do it on a 10-game slate. I think there's probably value I feel better about. Like maybe Iguodala plays a few more minutes. I don't know if Duncan Robinson being out would do a ton for me for Miami. All right, guys. So we have 4 games left. Where are we at? Over 300 viewers and 83 likes. I appreciate it. Again, I'll get to questions here at the end. So let me finish going through these last 4 games and then questions. So like I mentioned early on here in the live stream, this Portland-Memphis game I like for tournaments. I don't know if a ton of these guys are going to be popular because I don't think any are optimal plays. But it's a 240 over-under. 2 teams play fast and 2 teams that play very little defense. So I know it was setting up yesterday that in the first quarter at least, that Pacers-Blazers game, it was like 35-35 in the first quarter. I had a low-owned Brogdon in that like 25. I had a low-owned Nurkic that was crushing. And I'm like, oh man, it's going to be a huge night for me. And then the Pacers just completely lay an egg in the next couple quarters, get absolutely blown out. And I tilted my head off. I was so mad about that. But, all right. So, yeah, this is a game I think has some real upside if it can stay close. The top 2 guards for Portland, neither cash game plays. But, hey, this is 9.3K for Lillard now. We're going to get a big game from him somewhat soon. He's not been shooting the ball great. 8 of 22, 8 of 27, 6 of 14. And, again, he's not an optimal play. But I like him for tournaments. He'll be low-owned. I like CJ as well, a little bit cheaper. Arguably maybe the better point per dollar play of the 2. And then you guys know if you watch my channel, if you've been watching my channel for the last 2.5 years, this is one of my boys because Yusuf Nurkic does it all, right? The last 2 games that stay close, 26 points, 17 boards, 5 assists, 1 block, 1 steal. The game against Memphis, 16 points, 19 boards, 5 assists, 2 blocks, and a steal. Yeah, I like Yusuf Nurkic a good amount here. And the game against the Pacers plays limited minutes plus the blowout, had 11, 10, 4, 1, and 1. As long as there's no foul trouble or anything like that for Nurkic, we're going to get about 30 minutes from him. And I'm not afraid of Jonas Valanciunas in the defensive end. So I still think Yusuf Nurkic is a really good play in the mid-range. The wings for Portland are secondary plays. You want to take a shot in Powell or Rocco and hope they hit their threes, can do it. But nothing I feel good about. Now on the Memphis side, again, another one of my boys, Ja Morant. Yeah, he's really turned it on of late. And he's had some big games here recently with Jonas Valanciunas in the lineup. Just look at this. 4 of the last 5 games for Ja Morant. 72, 62, 46, and 44 in a blowout. Those are the fantasy points for Ja Morant. Again, he is not an optimal play, not a cash game play at this price, but I like the upside in GPPs. I still like, he could go for 50 tonight at 1%, and I would not be surprised. So Ja's the guy I'm looking to as a contrarian spend up. I don't think I get to anyone else on the Grizzlies. You can make the argument for Jonas Valanciunas, but I think Triple J being healthy does hurt him a little bit. So it's really Ja for me. All right, 3 games left, Pelicans and Nuggets. The guy that stands out, I got to go to him, is Lonzo Ball at 6.5K, and I think he's going overlooked. And I think that's a mistake. 34, 38 minutes last couple of games. If he's going to continue to play close to 40 minutes, even though the matchup's not necessarily the best, I think Lonzo's too cheap here. So I think he's a really safe play with upside at that price. With Zion and Ingram at their respective prices, fine contrarian GPP plays, nothing more than that. Now keep an eye on Steven Adams. If Steven Adams is out, we could have value here in Guillermo Hernan-Gomez. The only thing I'm concerned about is who he's going to be up against, and that being Nikola Jokic. Definitely some foul trouble risk if he, does pick up the start. But Hernan-Gomez is actually like a solid offensive player. And if he starts again, I think we can for sure go there for value. The only concern is potential foul trouble. If you want to take a shot in like Jackson Hayes and hope there's foul trouble for Hernan-Gomez in like a super dart throw for tournaments, you can. But again, nothing more than that. On the Denver side, I mentioned Jokic. I think he's probably one of the best plays of the slate. One of the optimal plays for sure, in my opinion. Been involved with some blowouts. Denver is thin. If Steven Adams is out especially too, like he should be able to feast against his front court. So I think Nikola Jokic, again, one of the best spend-ups of the slate for sure. Really like him in both formats. I think MPJ is firmly in play for GPPs. Now at almost 9K, I don't know if I pull the trigger on him in cash games, but if you want to get off the Jokic chalk, you can go to MPJ for GPPs. The rest of the Nuggets, there's nothing really here for me. Dozier, Gordon, Campazzo, Rivers. Maybe one of those guys is a good game, but I'm not going to go there on a 10-game slate. All right, Utah, Sacramento. So this game is really, really appealing for me. First, the Utah side. So no Mitchell, no Conley. Two high-usage guys out of this offense and fantastic matchup. We got to start with Jordan Clarkson at 6.9K. He's going to be popular tonight. It is for good reason. Really like him at this price. I'm assuming he starts with Ingles. I guess we'll see what the Jazz do with the starting lineup. But great matchup. I think he plays close to 35 minutes tonight. So really like Clarkson, and I really like Joe Ingles too. Shooting-wise, he struggled last couple games. 1 of 9, 3 of 14. He's not going to continue to shoot that bad. He should have the ball in his hands a lot too. Like I think the guys that are going to handle the ball are going to be Clarkson and Ingles. So Ingles will play the point a good amount here. I like him a lot in this matchup. Ingles, Clarkson, two of the best plays of the slate in my opinion. You guys know my feeling on Bojan Bogdanovic. The upside is there when he's hitting his shots, but this is also a possibility. So you can play Bojan. I'm good with that. Just know he could literally sink your lineup tonight. He could get you 10 fancy points if he's not hitting his shots like he did last game where he shot 1 of 11. Now, he's probably not going to shoot 1 of 11 again, but that is in the range of outcomes for him. Whereas with like Ingles, Clarkson, I don't think as much, right? Because they're going to have the ball in their hands a lot more. And then Royce O'Neal. He'll play, low to mid 30s minutes. I think he's a fair value play. And then one more guy I will mention I'm a little bit intrigued by for value is Niang. Niang's at 3-4. He played 24 minutes the last game in a close game against Minnesota. I think he's going a little bit overlooked. But the Jazz are thin, right? Like, they just don't have a lot of guys that can use. Like, Gobert, I'm guessing the starting lineup is going to be Gobert, Clarkson, Ingles, Bojan, and Royce. But, like, who's going to play on the bench, right? Niang's going to be the first guy off the bench. I think we probably get mid-20s minutes from him, maybe a little bit more. I think he's going overlooked. I kind of like Niang for value at that price. All right, finally, Sacramento. So, no Fox, no Barnes. We'll start with Halliburton, my favorite play in the Kings side. 37, 36 minutes last couple games, so having the ball in his hands a ton. He's a guy that can do the peripheral stats. I think he's a good bring back if you're using like a Utah stack. Halliburton's probably the first guy I go to. Healed is playable too. Like he'll get a boost obviously, but would rather get to Halliburton over Healed. Rashawn Holmes, I don't think we've gotten confirmation if he's on a minutes limit. If there's no limit for Holmes, he's a viable tournament play. If he's still going to be limited, I'm not going to go there. And then Mo Harkless is just Mo Harkless. He's a low usage guy, but he'll play big minutes. Viable at 3-8. And then it's like, I have no idea who else they're going to start. I really don't. They have like DeLon Wright, Terrence Davis, and Metu. Like, I think one of those guys pick up the start. I'm not sure which way they go. They could, I really don't know who they start, but I would guess it's one of those three. DeLon Wright, again, I think he has to play more minutes now with no Barnes. Like, Barnes is playing 40 minutes. So, like, Wright off the bench, if he doesn't start, Terrence Davis becomes, a viable punt play. He's a guy that actually is a good scorer. And then even Metu has been playing well of late in, like, limited run. If he starts, like, he's a good point per guy, a guy that can get the peripheral stats. So, like, whoever does end up picking up the start for the Kings, I think is a pretty solid value play. Finally, Clippers and Suns, a game I don't have a ton of interest in. We'll start with Paul George. He was a huge letdown for myself as well as everyone else at last slate. It's a tough matchup here against Phoenix, but with no Kawhi Leonard most likely. He still has the upside. I'm good with him as a contrarian spend up. The rest of the Clippers I'm probably not going to get to. And then finally, I will mention Boogie Cousins, I guess, as a contrarian value play. He played 25 minutes in a blowout. If something happens to Zubac, like you could see a pretty big game from Cousins. I think he only plays 12 to 15 minutes in a close game. So more often than not, he's not going to have a huge game. But if something happens to Zubac or the game blows out, that's where you could see the ceiling game. And finally, Phoenix. So with Crowder and Sarge both questionable, if they're both out, the starters all got big run. Like Booker, Paul, Ayton, Bridges all played like 35 plus minutes. I think they're all three are at least intriguing. I think Chris Paul will probably be my favorite in a revenge game narrative. Might go a little bit overlooked. And then if Crowder and Sarge are both out, Cam Johnson's playable for value. You're not going to feel good about it, but he should get about 30 minutes, whether or not he starts. If he starts or not. I think he'll play about 30. All right, so that's where we're at. Kendrick Duncan remain questionable. Hero's out. Okay, so Graham Rozier, Cody Martin is starting. Bridges in Washington. Okay, so we're still waiting on, again, Philadelphia starting lineup. Or not Philadelphia, Atlanta with those, with their guards. All right, so hit me up with some questions, guys. We are almost at 400 viewers again and over 100 likes, so I appreciate all the support. Let's see. So Jokic, Niang, and Cody Martin, and Halliburton, or Anthony Davis, Lonzo Ball, Chetty Osman, and Lou Williams for cash games. Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends with Lou. Like, I think Lou looks good, pretty good if he starts. So I guess we'll wait and see for now on that one. Lonzo, Ingles, Terrence Davis, Niang, Nurkic, Westbrook, Harkless, and Morant for GPP. So you're taking a shot on Terrence Davis, right? We don't know who's going to start, but I think he's a guy that actually has a chance to start. If he doesn't start, he's obviously riskier. So it's a higher risk, high reward lineup that is. Nurkic or Lonzo, I think, are two of the in my opinion, safer plays in the mid range on the slate. Give me Nurk over Lonzo, but that's just because I'm a little bit biased there. Forward for 4.9K and under. Let's see, 4.9K and under. Yeah, so there's actually a few options here. I think you got Okiki and Royce O'Neal. Is there anyone else? Those are probably where I'm looking, are those two guys. Now, Okiki might lose a couple minutes with James Ennis in the rotation. Like, he's someone that below 5K, I think, could get you 25 to 30. And then Royce O'Neal, again, with Utah being thin, he's not a super high usage guy, but the last 5 games, 30, 36, 21, 24, 27. So for me, it's one of those two. I don't really have a strong take on which one I do prefer. Cam Johnson, plenty your money. Yeah, he has not been good. Dean Wade or Terrence Davis. Neither, obviously, you're going to feel good about. I think both are playable, right? Dean Wade should get about 30 minutes off the bench. And then with Terrence Davis, he's riskier. Like, I would feel good about Davis if he starts. If he doesn't start, then he becomes, again, a risk. But, like, he's a guy that, again, can score the ball. I think right now it's Dean Wade, unless we get news that Davis is starting in the next 30 minutes. Power forward for 6.1K. So forward's a little tricky on the slate, I won't lie. So 6.1. Well, so you only really have one option unless you're just going to leave like $1,000 on the table. And I don't really want to play Marcus Morris, so my opinion would be probably rebuild. Ja or Lillard or both at 8.1K on FanDuel. Well, they're both suboptimal plays, I do think. I like them for GPPs. I think it might be Lillard slightly there. Yeah, Pritchard or Dragic. Right now it's Pritchard, assuming he starts. But if none is out too, then I think Dragic becomes one of the better plays in the slate. Favorite 3 guards of Lonzo, Ball, Peyton Pritchard, Halliburton, and Clarkson. I think right now, as it stands, it's probably Pritchard and Clarkson for sure. And then with Ball versus Halliburton, I think it's really close there. 5.9K for forward. Again, that's forward is a little bit weak today. Yeah, so I guess it's Fournier. With both guards out, he might handle the ball more. A guy I really hate playing, but that's probably where it is. Who will be Hawks number 1 on offense? It's a good question. I think it's gonna be John Collins or Lou Williams. That would be my guess. Again, I need to see. Okay, so Duncan Robinson likely to play. Kendrick Nunn will play. So Kendrick Nunn will play. Duncan likely to play. That kind of takes me off Goran Dragic now. The reason I liked him was because the minutes the last game. But with those two guys in, then I'm not really on Goran Dragic anymore. Dotson, he's a flat min price. I think he gets 20 to 25 minutes off the bench, at least playable. Yeah, Ingles or Clarkson. Give me Ingles because I think he'll be a little bit lower owned. I obviously like both. You like Nurk at 8,300. Not so much at that price. I like him a lot more at 6,800 for DraftKings. Pritchard, Ingles, Niang, Jokic, Clarkson, Cody Martin, Nurkic. Nunn's in, yep. Depends on the starting lineup, Caleb, with Boston, but probably not. Point guard at 8.1K and below. Depends what contest you're playing. I think for cash games, it's probably Chris Paul, actually, just because the minutes have been pretty high for him. He's a guy that can do the peripheral stats. For cash games, I think it's Paul. I do like CJ, though, for tournaments. Again, I think this game has a good amount of upside, potential for a shootout there. So probably one of those two guys. Depends again what you're playing. Yeah, Clarkson or Lonzo, it's a close one. I'll go Clarkson, but I do think they're two good plays in the mid range. And like Holmes, 1-2 punch with Halliburton. I think Holmes is playable at least if there's no limit. We will know when we switch to Payton. Westbrook or Lillard. Cash games Westbrook. Westbrook for sure. For GPPs though, like I'm good taking a shot on Lillard. I think the upside is there. 4.6K for forward. Yeah, so I think kind of went over somewhere. Let's see. Okay, yeah, so it's 4.6. Again, Cam Johnson's playable if both those guys are out for the Suns. Not something you're going to feel good about. You have Cody Martin at 4K. You have the Orlando guys. I will say there's nothing I feel good about. Like Cody Martin, I think playable. Both Gary Harris and Dwayne Bacon are playable, and Cam Johnson's playable. There's a lot of guys that are just playable. There's no one like I like in that range. There's Wanamaker in play. He should get mid-20s minutes off the bench, and it's a flat mid price. So, yes, he's viable. Is Alec Burks in for sure? Did I miss that? I might have missed that. I thought he was out. Hold on. Let's go to Alec Burks. I might have missed that one. Oh, he is in. Okay. Yeah, so that does hurt. I would say that's slight downgrade to a guy like D Rose. There's a lot of good guard plays in the slate, so maybe don't go there. Gobert or Rozier? I mean, for cash games, it's probably Gobert. For GPPs, probably Rozier. Nurkic or Ingles? Give me Ingles there. Can you get away with fading Jokic? I will say the same thing I said about Jaylen Brown last slate. I was like, hey, Jaylen Brown, the way he doesn't get there is you need the blowout. He is the best play on the slate. I faded him. It didn't work out. This is kind of how I feel about Nikola Jokic. I think he's the best play on the slate, spend-up-wise. There are ways, though, he doesn't get there. Blowout, maybe random foul trouble, something like that. Something weird happens. But I will say, again, he looks fantastic today. Thoughts on Russ, Halliburton, Ingles, Niang, Gobert, Dunn, Okoro, and Lonzo. A little bit too contrarian for my liking. Metu or Davis, I will say, like, whoever starts for Sacramento is someone I look to for values. Like, I don't know. I really don't know who's going to start for Harrison Barnes. I think it's like one of those two, or maybe DeLon Wright, and they go a little bit smaller. Goodwin, Melton, Terrence Davis, AD, Jokic, Lonzo, Royce, O'Neal, and Clarkson. A little bit contrarian. Again, Melton, the minutes are never secure on him. At least like the upside is there with Melton, but you just cannot trust the minutes. Dame or Rozier? It's probably Dame for me. Ayton or Jonas? If they are at a similar price, it's probably JV. But I don't really like either center today. Jokic or Russ? I think it's Jokic just because the matchup's a little bit better for him. Bam or DeRozan? Bam, because I don't really want to play DeRozan against the Heat. Yeah, Ball or Halliburton? I think that's really close. I will say, if you're playing a lot of Utah guys, it might make sense to run it back for a guy like Halliburton because there's some blowout risk there. And if the game stays close on the Sacramento side, I think the reason is going to be because of a pretty big game from Halliburton. So, yeah, D Rose obviously riskier now with Burks in there, so probably Lou and CJ. Randall's a fine contrarian spend up. He'll be low owned. Halliburton plus Niang or Ingles plus Harkless. It's probably the second one. Yeah, again, I think Jokic looks a little more optimal than Russ. No, I do like Russ, though, still, obviously. Rozier or DeRozan? Rozier. All right, last question, and then I will wrap it up here, and then we'll check to see if there's any more breaking news. So 6K and under for utility. All right, let's take a look here. So 6K. Okay, so I don't really want to play Pirtle. Don't want to play Reggie Jackson. No one Robert Williams. No one Thompson. No one Zubac. No one Dragic now. Kind of no one D Rose. I mean, it's probably a rebuild. It probably is because there's nothing I really feel good about down here. It's not a good price range, so I think you probably move something around because that's personally I don't think. I mean, I would say Derrick Rose, but again, with Burks now in this lineup, he might lose some minutes. If I had to pick one, it would be Derrick Rose and just hope he plays 30 minutes again. But that's not something I feel super good about. So. All right, one more time, refresh, and then again, I'll call it a stream. So appreciate everyone coming to check it out. What we're waiting for, really big news, is we're still waiting to see what the Hawks are going to do with the starting lineup. Like, does Lou Williams start? Does Goodwin start? Goodwin's available. They're thin at the guard position, so keep an eye on that one. But good luck, guys. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. I'll be back here tomorrow as always, so I'll see everyone then.